Please like my videos, please subscribe to my channel, and please press the bell icon so that you get to know when my latest video has come. And to learn more and to find a video relevant to you, please do check out my videos list.
Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend Astrology and Guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. Today we will talk about a very important house in astrology, and I am introducing houses slightly late rather than starting with the houses first, and the reason being is that in astrology, if you look at planets, if you look at yogas, if you look at doshas, if you look at Shadbala, if you look at Argalas, any concept, it changes from horoscope to horoscope. The meaning of the planetary placement changes, the strength changes, the degrees change, and so there are a lot of variables which may come in. So it is necessary to understand these variables better. However, one constant thing or one constant area, one constant manifestation which never changes is the meaning of the 12 houses of the horoscope. And hence it is important that you understand the houses more intimately, more intricately, more closer, and a deeper meaning of the houses. If you start with houses first without understanding the deeper meaning of the planets, then what happens is that you look at, whenever you're looking at the horoscope, you start with the houses first, and because you don't know the deeper meaning of the houses, you jumble up the meaning, the manifestation. However, if you understand the intricacies of the planetary energies, signs very well, then when the deeper introduction of the houses happens, then we can relate those placements to the house. Only then we will be able to understand the manifestation of the houses clearly and more closely. Without understanding the manifestation of the houses closely, clearly, and more intricately, we will not be able to arrive at the larger question: to what extent does the house manifest itself to the larger areas it represents. And so, because each house is a sea in itself, there are so many areas that each house represents, that without understanding astrology at a larger level, at a 70,000 feet level, holistically, it won't be easy to understand the houses. So today I am starting with the 7th house. This is one of the most difficult houses in the horoscope to understand, and it is not mystical like the 8th house, which is more connected to mysticism, sudden things, surprising things, deep things. This is not so confusing from that perspective, but the number of people attached to this house, the number of manifestations is so huge, so large, that you can go very wrong by looking at it only from the marital perspective, because many times people look at the 7th house more as a house of relationships, and that too they connect it more to the marriage life or the married life, and to the conjugal life, though the manifestation of the 7th houses are much more than just the conjugal relationship or the married life or the marital relationships. So what does the 7th house mean, and why am I starting with the 7th house? Firstly, it is a very tough house to understand and deal with. Why do I say it is a tough house to deal with? It is because the 7th house represents everyone to whom our life is connected with. It is not like the 11th house, which is society at large, the world at large. 7th house is those people who you connect with on a day-to-day basis. It could represent the security guard in your building, to the maid who comes to help you in your day-to-day life. It could represent somebody at office, like the receptionist. It could represent your boss at work, though you will also see these from other placements also. But generally, at a generic level, you will see all those people whose life is connected with you on a day-to-day basis from the 7th house, and you're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis is also seen with the 7th house. So anyone and everyone who you meet on a day-to-day basis is seen from the 7th house. Even if for one day you meet somebody and you have the small interaction, but which is an important interaction with you, is also seen from the 7th house. For example, a transit of a short duration like moon over the 7th house can bring in a certain area or certain relationship or certain connection, which may not be long, but it may be important. So it may be just for those 2-3 days that interaction happens. but it could be an important one. So any and every interaction, any and every dealing that you do with people are seen from the 7th house. The 7th house is about individual people. The 11th house is about groups of people, society at large. 7th house is also about how you work with other people, how you deal with other people as an individual, rather not just the dealing itself. So how you treat others, how much of a respect you give to others, how much other people are important to you, how much you give importance to the synergy between you and the others is also seen from the 7th house. And hence, in that way, the 7th house is also connected to Saturn, to your karma. Why? Because 7th house is the only planet which gets the maximum directional strength in the 7th house. Also, Saturn gets exalted in the 7th sign, which is Libra. And hence, 7th house is also connected to Saturn. And Saturn also rules your 10th house, the house of karma. And hence, 7th house in that way is also connected to karma. So, Saturn is connected with the 7th house. Saturn gets exalted in the 7th sign Libra. Hence, the 7th house is also about relationships, which Libra represents. But what is about relationships? The Libra is about the weighing scale, which means you need to keep the balance in relationships. It's a give and take. If you have, for example, Rahu in the 7th house, then maybe you expect more from the relationship rather than being able to give. And because you expect more, and hence there may be a misplacement of expectation, you may feel you are right in demanding or expecting what you think what you are asking for. However, the other party, the other person may not think it right or may not be able to do even if they want to. So it is like you get married and you have a spouse and you expect spouse to do certain things for you. However, that spouse may not have the ability to do those things for you. And so then that becomes a tug of war. This could not just be the spouse, it could also be somebody who you interact with on a day-to-day basis, and that person becomes a tough nut for you to crack because the challenge is there in the relationship. There is a challenge in the dynamics between you and the other person because the weighing scale is not right. How you look at the weighing scale may not be right. The perspective becomes very, very important. So the relationships is key to the 7th house. So one has to be very, very mindful that when you're looking at the 7th house, you're looking at dealing with on a day-to-day basis with anyone and everyone, which is an important connection. You're looking at relationships, you're looking at the balance in relationships also, and you're looking at the karma itself. Now, when you're dealing with people in a relationship, you being disciplined in a relationship is important because every relationship has certain rules and regulations attached to it. If you are with your spouse or about your spouse, there are certain rules and regulations, even how you deal with the spouse. You can't just deal with your spouse any which way which you want. You can't be very angry at the spouse. Once in a while being angry with the spouse or even abusing the spouse, you may still get away because there is so much depth to the relationship. But you can't keep abusing that relationship. However, somebody who you meet for the first time and say the receptionist in your office, you can't get away with abusing or screaming and shouting. It could become a disciplinary affair and your job, your service can be at stake. In fact, your growth at work may also be at stake because of just one bad interaction that you have. So, the nitty-gritties of these relationships also seen from the 7th house. However, you need to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff, and hence you also look at the divisional charts. For example, if you need to look at from the 7th house how deep and strong your marital relationship is, then at a deeper level you take the help of the Navamsa chart, also the Navamsa also. Also, you look at Venus, how strong your Venus is, especially for a man. However, for women, you may look at Jupiter and the Navamsa in perspective to the 7th house. So, when you're looking at a deeper meaning, there are many more layers to the 7th house and any house. It is like when you're peeling off the layers of the onion, you will not get the onion because you're just peeling off the layers, hoping to find the onion. The onion is in the peels itself, and one needs to understand that. So when you keep peeling off the onion, there will be last peel and then you will not still find the onion because each peel of the onion represents the onion, and hence the 7th house, each interaction, every relationship that you have all put together is the 7th house and not just a marital relationship. Secondly, you are also able to see certain dealings that you have at a material level also from the 7th house. For example, the gains from the mother as seen from the 7th house, because the 4th house is also the house of mother or represented by mother, and the 4th house to the 4th house is the 7th house. So the material gains of the mother can also be seen from the 7th house. Then your business dealings are also seen from the 7th house, because 7th house is the house of partnership. So in a business, whether you do well or not do very well, whether your partner will cheat you, whether the partner will expect more from you, whether you will have a good relationship in the partnership, whether you can be successful going alone or going in a partnership in a business can also be seen from the 7th house, because the 7th house is also about dealings, exchanging, give and take relationships is also seen from the 7th house. And even a married relationship is a give and take, it's a contract, and hence contracts that you sign with people or a date with others is also seen from the 7th house. And since the 7th house is about relations, the health of relationships is also seen from the 7th house. The 7th house will not only tell you the health of the spouse, but it will also tell you the general health of the relationship with others. For example, at a deeper biological level, physical level, you will see the health of the spouse from the 12th house, because the 12th house is the 6th house to the 7th house. So at a biological level, you look at the 12th house for the sickness of the spouse. However, at an emotional level, at a give and take level, at an exchange level, you will be looking at the 7th house itself for the health of the relationship. The other challenge with the 7th house is the 7th house is the only house which has a very strong connection to the dusthanas. One, it lies between the dusthanas, the 6th house and the 8th house, and it has a 6-8 relationship with the 12th house, which no other house has. The 12th house is the 6th house to the 7th house, and the 7th house is the 8th house to the 12th house, and the 12th house is the house of waste and excess. And so if you are bringing more waste and excess to your relationship, that is also seen with from the 7th house, especially if it's establishing a strong relationship with the 12th house. So in a certain relationship, is it that relationship going to go to waste? Your efforts are going to go to waste. Whether that relationship is not going to serve you can also be seen whether 7th house and 12th house are making a connection. Are you going to get a good, happy conjugal life? Then you see the connection between the 7th and the 8th house. Are you going to have a long, stable married life or a relationship or a partnership? You will see with the 6th and the 7th house. And because the 7th house lies between two dusthanas, it is also seen as a challenge on both the fronts. The negativity of both the houses can also come to you. But because it is also Marak as given by in various shlokas, it is also one of the reasons it is the Marak is because the 8th house is seen as the house of life, how long your life is, and the 7th house is the 12th house to the 8th house, and hence because the 8th house represents the length of life and the 7th house is the 12th to the 8th house, so it is also seen as a Marak something which also can bring danger to you. The other is because it is opposite to the Lagna itself, and because the Lagna represents you, your life, your health, the opposite house is complementary to it, is the opposite to you. And hence various manifestations can be seen in the 7th house, not just only marital relationship or partnership or just business dealings. For example, how well you will connect with your team members at work is also seen from the 7th house, whether you will be able to deal with them or not. If you see that you activate the 7th house more positively, then the losses that may come from the 6th house, being the 12th to the 7th house, may be reduced. If you are able to deal with the relationship and keep the relationship with the 7th house very, very well, then the earning of the 7th house is the second house to it, which is the 8th house. So then the 8th house challenges will also be subdued, which means you attract challenges of the 6th house and the 8th house more if you don't deal with your relationships properly, if you're not able to balance the relationship properly. So that's why the 7th house becomes so crucial. You may be able to subdue the challenges of the 6th house with how you deal with the 7th house and the relationships and the dealings connected to it. You may be able to reduce the challenges of the 8th house in terms of how you are able to earn from the relationships and how you are able to conduct the dealings with people connected to the 7th house. So, because the 8th house is the second house to the 7th house, you earn those challenges, you earn the obstacles of the 8th house if you don't keep your relationship intact. And hence, it is said, relationships are the ones which come to your help. Money may not come to your help all the time. It's a relationship which come to your help. And hence, the 7th house becomes very, very important, is because in your most tough times, in your most challenging times, in your most down times, it is the relationship which stand by you. And hence, the 7th house, it becomes your mental health also, your physical health's guarantee also in a certain way. The assurance to your life, the assurance to your mental health, the assurance to your dealings, the assurance to your happiness, and keeping of the challenges is also the 7th house. Whether you will waste in the relationship or not is also seen from the 7th house, depending on how it is getting connected to the 12th house or to the 6th house or the 8th house. If the 7th house is very afflicted, then the conjugal happiness may be missing, the business results may be missing, you may not be able to deal or work with your team members very, very well, you may not be able to get the support on a day-to-day basis well, the security guard may not be very cooperative with you, the maid may not be listening to you, or even not bothering to pay attention to you. And so these challenges may come in. And if you see that many times you face challenges with different people on a day-to-day basis, you don't seem to get along very well with others, even with your spouse, then there is definitely some challenges about the 7th house and how you're dealing with it and how you're keeping the health of the 7th house. And if there are bad conjunctions connected to it, bad aspects connected to it, it is getting connected to some bad dosha, then you need to do something about it as well. If the 4th house is your mother, then the mother's mother is the 4th to the 4th, and so your grandma can also be seen from the 7th house. And because the 5th house is the house of your children, then the 3rd house from the 5th house is the effort of that house, which means how much of the effort that your children will be doing can also be seen from the 7th house using the Bhavat bhavam principle. So each house is very, very deep, and one of the most deepest house is the 7th house, and hence you need to be able to understand that house very, very well. The gains of the father and the guru, because the 7th house is the 11th house from the 9th house, can also be seen from the 7th house. At the same time, whether you will get good gains or not from your married life can also be seen from the 7th house, because the 9th house represents a religious ceremony and you get married in the religious ceremony. Will the religious ceremony be able to bring you gains or not? That you can see from the 7th house, because the 7th house is the 11th house to the 9th house. And so all these connections are very, very important. A deeper understanding of houses is very, very important, and it is critical to understand the 7th house very, very well, because it is about relationships, it's about balance, it is about everybody that your life gets connected on a day-to-day basis, rather than just the societal connection that the 11th house represents. Whether you will go abroad to foreign lands, whether you will do abroad, whether you will do well in another country apart from your country, can also be seen from the 7th house, because the 7th house is the 8th house to the 12th house. The 12th house represents foreign lands, and the 7th house is the 8th house to the 7th house, which means obstacles which are coming to you doing very well in foreign lands can also be from the 7th house. If the 7th house is very, very badly afflicted, then there could be hindrance for you to go to foreign lands and do well there. So that's why it's also seen as a connection to foreign lands. So if you want to see any area of your life, then you have to see 2 or 3 different connections together rather than seeing each house alone. And hence the 7th house should also be seen in relationship to others. So if you're looking at the spouse relationship, then you have to look at the 7th house. You will have to look at the Karaka for you. If you are a man, then you have to look at the Venus's placement in the house. You also have to look at the 11th house, because the 11th house is wishes and desires, and your wish and desire is also to have a good married life. And so you have to see in connection with the 7th house, the 11th house, and the Karaka of either Venus or Jupiter. If you are looking at happiness in your domestic life, then you see both from the 7th house and from the 4th house, and to an extent even from the 2nd house. So if you are able to combine the 7th house with other houses, then you can have a deeper understanding of the various attributes of that house and manifestation. If you want to have a deeper understanding of your married life, then you can see in connection with the Navmansh, the Navamsa chart, and the Karaka and the 7th house, and the placement of the 7th house ruler, and whether the 7th house or the ruler of the 7th house gets connected to more yogas, better yogas, or more doshas. So friends, in a nutshell, this is what the 7th house represents at a holistic level, what the 7th house represents at a deeper, much deeper level. If you keep peeling off the layers of the onions, you will find many layers to the 7th house. But rather than go too deep into any house, first, unless you are able to deal with the most important relations connected to a house, what will you do to get a deeper understanding and assessment? So firstly, try and deal better with the spouse. Try and deal better with everybody who gets connected to you on a day-to-day basis, from your security guard to the maid to the team that you work with, your colleagues at work, your boss, to any interaction that you have, the general store which you frequently visit, your friends that you frequently meet on a day-to-day basis, other friends, acquaintances can be seen from the 11th house, but more intimate friends, close friends are also seen from the 7th house, because you are emotional dealing is also with your friends. So most important relations, most important dealings on a day-to-day basis, you need to see from the 7th house, and because it is the most important dealings on a day-to-day basis which make our day, which make our future, which make our life, and hence the 7th house becomes one of the most important houses in the horoscope. So deep dive, understand your 7th house better, understand the relationships better, understand whether you are facing challenges with the other people on a day-to-day basis, how good your conjugal life is, how good other people connections are, how well you are able to balance the relationship, how well you are able to earn those relationships and the output from the relationships. Deep dive, understand your 7th house better, and deal better with the 7th house and the relationships and the people connected to that and its manifestations, because from the people's perspective, the 7th house can be a make or break house for you. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me at the link given below. Until some other time with some other video, this is your friend, astrologer and guide Irfan, signing off. And once more, as a reminder, please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is also Astro Assurance. As you know, my channel's name is. Ciao.